U.S. President Joe Biden has landed in San Antonio, Texas this morning, making his way to Uvalde, which is, of course, the site of that horrific school shooting where 19 students and 2 teachers were killed. The tragedy has led to renewed calls for gun control for some, while at the same time, the National Rifle Association gathered in Houston, rejecting those reforms. Earlier, I spoke with Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee about the mass shooting and how Congress might now respond. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here. I guess I'll start with getting your reaction to the news of this horrific shooting in your state.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And I always start by giving my enormous prayers and dedication to the lives of these babies, prayers for their families, and commitment to action. When we first heard this, we were traveling and we were preparing to White House. I decided to delay my travel to the White House to Washington, D.C. because I was literally broken. I was sobbing. And it was also a moment of disbelief. 19 babies with life and love and fun. What we owe them as Americans, that they were now dead, and 2 beautiful teachers. The grief was an uncontrollable grief, but it was also a resolve that this is a time that there will be no more denial, no more rejection, no more excuses.
You yourself have tried to put forward gun reform in the U.S. Congress. You sponsored many bills over the years. What makes you believe, Congresswoman, that this time will be any different, given that there seems to be real intransigence?
This carnage is being seen around the world. We've all been praying for Ukraine and giving them our support to defend democracy. They're at war. What happened in Uvalde seems to be nothing more than an actual war on our children. And so whoever stands against moving gun safety legislation stands tragically on the side of carnage, weaponry, violence, and the overtaking of the nation from one entity, the National Rifle Association, and not even the membership, but it will be the powerful gun lobby and the money of the manufacturers. It will not be life, it'll be power. And any public servant that wants to be categorized as the espouser of the evil views of power and money against the lives of our children, our babies, and the survival of Americans on the streets of America, then let them take that to the polls in November.
And yet, Congresswoman, you're saying all that as the National Rifle Association holds a convention in your city, and as some representatives are choosing to speak there and attend, even though you and others have said this is not appropriate for this to happen right now. What does that say to you, that the NRA event continues and that politicians continue to show up there?
Well, as I said, those individuals ultimately should be voted out, and that's what I expect in November. But not only are they in my city, they're in my congressional. I just came from standing in front of the building where they are, a building that was built by the taxpayers of this community. And so it is a smack in the face. It is a disregard for our pain and our grief. It's a disregard for our fellow Texans, and it's shameful.
You yourself, in parts of your proposed reforms on gun reform, have called for background checks for red flag laws in the wake of this shooting. There is, of course, some evidence that red flag laws help, certainly. In the case of the shooting, though, the mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, it did not. And there are some people that believe it is too subjective, that it leaves it up to the courts to make a decision and to other people to flag threats and worrying behavior. How much of a difference do you think red flag laws, which some Republicans are open to, would actually make?
First of all, let me say that we will be going back with my committee, the Judiciary Committee, and the subcommittee that I chair, the Crime, Terrorism, Homeland Security, and we will be marking up bills. We will be moving gun bills this coming week. Literally, we have heard the voices of pain and the voice of the people. One of those will be, of course, the red flag. And I frankly believe that it is a tool in the toolbox. It is one of the elements of gun safety laws. And frankly, I believe that it should have worked in the massacre in Buffalo because that individual was 17, but he still showed signs and he had guns illegally. And so I'm going to be offering language that says, even if you are under the age and you get guns, you should be able to be noted to be under red flag laws. And it does take the courts, but there's also, we're going to be moving again the universal background check, which is already in the Senate. We're going to be moving gun trafficking bills dealing with storage, which can be very vital in terms of children hurting themselves or young people taking guns, as has happened in Parkland, away from an area that's not stored, as what happened in Sandy Hook as well. And so these are tools in our toolbox. We're going to be looking at a number of gun safety laws.
Last question, Congresswoman. I don't want to keep you too long, but Canada watches these events unfold time and again in the United States and wonders why it continues. What would you say to Canadians who are still stunned that it continues to happen?
Well, first of all, I thank them for being our neighbors. I thank them for being concerned and their prayers and call for action as well for the people of Uvalde and others who've lost lives. We're going to say to them that we're going to do better, that Americans are good. We're good people. We believe in higher values of democracy. We're good neighbors, and we're going to get it right. We're going to unshackle our shame, get rid of the shame, and courageously move these bills, not for us, but for generations to come. Not for those who have lost their lives, but to honor them because they did not deserve to lose their lives. We are angry, but we are not without action. We're with anguish, but we're not without purpose. And so when you see us mark those bills up in the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee that I've served now for 2 decades, I'm going to be very proud. It's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of shenanigans, but we're going to make it, and we're going to get those bills to the House in the following week, and we're going to get those bills to the desk of the President of the United States. And Joe Biden is with us, and he will sign those bills into law. We're going to begin to see the stopping of the killing of our babies and have parents who now have bottomless pits in their hearts, shredded hearts. We're going to give them some sense of solace and hope. That's all we can do for them.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for making the time for us.
Thank you.